Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, coming at you. And wait a minute. Usually, right over there is my resident millennial John, but it's not John. Stephen Ignoramus, what are you doing?
Just hanging out, just doing the guest hosting work.
Did you
The work, yeah,
did you kidnap John?
I did. He's on
What?
death's door. He's
He's on
tied up in the basement.
he's on death's door. He's got some sort of sickness. He doesn't want to tell us what it is, but you know how it is. Maybe he's not wanting to be judged because it could be anything. I'm thinking clap, maybe Gano,
Mm,
maybe. No?
probably.
You've got him
I go with the
kidnapped. You would
latter.
know.
Yeah, I didn't check him down there yet.
By golly, Stephen, how you been? Haven't seen you on the
Good.
show in a little while.
Yeah, it's been a while. I don't remember the last time I was on. I know we did the debates and stuff like that, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I think the last time I had you on air was on my show.
Yes, the last time we were together was on your show. We were talking a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So how things been with you?
Good, good.
Yeah.
Just doing my stream, doing about 3 interviews a week on my podcast, and things are going good. Just trying to build the channel and whatnot. Been on Twitter a lot. Been on Twitter too much.
You've been streaming so much lately, they might classify you as a waterway. I mean,
That's
I'm
right.
just saying, you know. So you've got what one, if I remember, one, two, or three different types of streams you're doing every week now.
3. I mean, I haven't done my music one in a couple weeks, but I do my solo stream, which is the Daily Ignoramus, where it's just me, and I take call-ins now on that one. And I do Call Me Ignorant, which is my podcast, vidcast, interview show, and then the Know Nothing Party is my weekly concert. Well, it's been a couple weeks, but I try to do it every Wednesday. Wednesday, I have one on this coming Wednesday where I'm going to be rapping a lot.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
rapping.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now on the music show, is it all original stuff that you're doing, right?
No,
Mostly.
no, it's
Some you
not
just
all
play
original.
around.
No, I do some covers. I improvise a lot, and I have a couple originals written. But yeah, just kind of whatever I want. I'm trying. I got into the streaming thing to get away from music, but it pulled me back in. You know what I mean?
Now, why would you want to get away from music?
I've been doing it, for 10 years with no break. It's all I've been into since I was 18 or 19. So I don't know. Just wanted to get into talking to people more. I read a lot more the last couple of years, so I want to get more into ideas and talking to interesting people. And I spend 30 hours a week doing music anyway because I'm a teacher.
So 10 years, huh? 10 years is too much and you're reaching burnout. Maybe you ought to sit down with Mick Jagger. I mean, he could
Mm,
tell you a thing or two about being in there for a while, day in and day out.
dude,
How old are
do you see
those
that?
guys?
Do you see that video of Mick Jagger after his
No.
heart surgery? Dude, there's a video of Mick Jagger after like 4 or 5 days after his heart surgery, and he's dancing. I mean, he's dancing like a young man. It's really, really cool.
How is I don't know how they still go on. What are they, 50, 60 something years into business now? Jeez Louise.
Something. I mean, he's 76, I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy scary, right? And and
Yeah.
and, and you're whining about 10 years. You poor sap.
Life is hard, dude.
Hey, we got some folks in the chat. Looks like I see
Oh,
Tinchy over there, and
Benji.
I see Jake from Freedom Scoop, and I don't know who's this. Do you know who this Ayama Fago is?
Yeah,
Anybody you know?
it means I am a Fago in
Is
Spanish.
that somebody you know? Is that somebody from your
Hmm.
channel?
Believe that is the sick and dying one.
Oh, is that who that is? I should have known from the Hillary eating the baby meme, the avatar.
Yes, yes.
All
And
right.
Jake from Freedom Scoop. Hello. He's on my show tomorrow night.
No way.
Yep.
Wow,
Yes,
that
sir.
is cool. I wish I could get him on our show. Wait a minute.
Yeah, he's just on there, right?
Yeah, he
Saw that
was.
episode.
He was. I
We
like
got
Jake.
we share a lot of people. We had Wyatt, Jaeger, got Jake on there, Keenan Dunham. You know,
Do you think they like being passed around? Do you like being
I don't
passed
know.
around from show to show? Is it fun? Do you think that's how important do you think that is to what we're doing to the new media?
I think it's pretty important. I mean, yeah, I definitely want to make the rounds, get to know people, and I don't know. If you're trying to build something, it's good to support each other for sure.
Yeah, it's notice John's comment over there. Be careful, Jake will ghost you if he has Chinese food.
Is that
Yeah.
true?
Well,
Is that? Oh, Jake
he.
just got married, man. Congratulations, Jake.
Wait, just got married.
He just got married on Saturday, I think.
Has he
I
been
believe
living
so.
in sin? Oh my
Yes,
God! I
haven't
think
we all?
Jake from Freedom Scoop has been living in sin because I thought he was already. I already thought he was. My world's been turned upside down.
Yep.
World's been turned
Congrats, Jake.
upside down. No wonder he's not answering his damn Twitter messages.
He says he's a sinner. Yeah.
Aren't we all? Originally, deep down.
Fallen men. Yeah. Fallen angels.
So, so Stephen, you told me off mic that you hadn't seen anything about this, but I got to share this. I thought this was the most, as Tinchy put it in the Discord server, this was metal today. This article that came out, this was like hardcore. Just the kind of things like, well, damn. So, you're familiar with James Bond movies, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I'm going to read this article to you. It's not very long, but we'll see how your facial expressions light up. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un borrowed an execution technique from a James Bond movie to rid himself of a top general, according to British media. In the James Bond film You Only Live Twice, antagonist Ernst Stavro Blofeld famously removes any opposition by releasing a trapdoor over a piranha-filled pool, causing the unfortunate victim to fall to a gruesome end. Several British media outlets, including The Sun and the Star on Sunday, reported over the weekend that one of North Korea's top generals suffered such a fate after displeasing Kim Jong-un, being thrown into a piranha-filled pool after having his torso and arms slashed with knives. The
What?
general, not named by media sources, was reported to have been punished for plotting a coup.
Whoa.
Yeah, and Kim Jong Un reportedly had the giant tank built inside Ryungsong residence, one of his presidential palaces. He has a piranha-filled pool in his palace.
This is Bond as shit, dude. Are you serious, man?
So metal,
Whoa. That's pretty metal, dude.
right?
It's more Bond than it's metal, but
Right?
you know.
Yes, it is. It is ultimate Bond, ultimate metal. That is, I mean, I don't like the guy, but he gets a notch of respect from me for that shit. I mean, that's hardcore. You want to take my shit? Meet my fish.
What I don't know. So it's because of a suspected coup.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Kim Jong Un slashed his arms himself. That's what I
Oh,
always wondering. Like, are you
I
willing
would.
to do it yourself?
I would love to see if they got it on video. I'm waiting to see if it comes out because one would expect that Kim Jong Un would make sure that that was documented, just for the beauty of it.
That is crazy, man. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say that's like old school, but you can't do that without technology. You
Right?
know, you need that's like modern barbarism, dude.
On a level that's just. I mean, literally, it's kind of shocking to even hear that somebody would go to that extent, right? I mean,
Whoa.
in this day and age.
Yeah. Dude does
Now,
whatever he wants.
I'm waiting to see. I swear to God, I'm just waiting for the tweet to come out. I'm waiting to see what Trump
From
tweets about
Trump.
it. Yes. Yes. I wonder if I could get a hold of Kim's contractor. He will know where to get the best piranha for me to
I talk,
drop Robert Mueller into.
I talked. Listen, I talked to Kim, and he said the man sleeps with the fishes. Like,
That's freaking awesome. Oh, but yeah, so I saw that. I'm like, God bless America. How does something like that happen? I don't know. Not here, though. That wouldn't happen here, right?
one day it may. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you never know. You never know what could go down in 100 years. Once a couple generations go by, people start to forget shit. It can happen.
Oh, wow, that
It can happen.
I need to be able to sleep tonight, Stephen. Don't put too much fear into me. All right.
50 or 60 years.
Hey, you mentioned that you had a little something that you found interesting today in the news. Can you divulge a little of that for us?
Yeah, let me pull up this article. So I mean, there's it's I guess Pride Month you would call it or whatever. And there's that straight Pride parade, which I found is a little bit dumb, but also hilarious because I'm looking at their official statement and stuff like that. And it's definitely a real life troll. But the thing with some trolling is you don't know whether you don't know whether I mean they're clearly trolling a little bit, but they're still going through with it. So the straight pride parade in Boston, Milo Yiannopoulos is named the marshal for the straight pride parade, grand marshal actually. um, and I don't know, I read about it today on my stream. I thought that was very, very funny. I find Milo Yiannopoulos to be extremely entertaining.
What would you say is his most entertaining quality when he
Well,
opens his
I mean,
mouth?
yeah, I mean, he's clearly very smart. He's clearly a very good writer. Um, and his command of language against things and people he opposes is he's a master at it. Regardless of his viewpoint or whatever. I don't know. People call him a Nazi and shit, which is very funny. And like a racist. He's married to a black guy. um, just I just find him to be very, he's a self-proclaimed provocateur, and I think he owns that well. But do you watch Legion of Skanks at all? You ever heard of that?
No,
Yeah.
no.
Legion of Skanks is a podcast in New York of three comedians, and they had him on their podcast about a week and a half ago, and they actually were not able to hold it at this comedy club that they usually hold it at because there was just protests up the ass. And so they had to hold it at their recording studio or whatever. But Milo was on that. It was so funny. I was cracking up. But Milo claims to have, along with two of his friends, invented the whole okay symbol and like spread it on 4chan, that they said that it was just a ploy to make it, you know, they wanted people to think it was a white power symbol, and people took the bait. And that's why, God knows how many articles have been written about this,
Hmm. And this is why I
millions
can't
of people.
teach my granddaughter to say okay.
Well, you should teach
I
her
mean,
that
once upon a
because
time, you could just say okay, yeah, teach
no,
her little things
what you
like
got to
that.
do is still teach it that's okay, because it still is okay. This is just a setup, but people fell for it. That's what's so funny about it. But him and three other people invented that. That's what he claims, at least. But anyway, he's the grand marshal for the straight pride parade, and they released a really, really funny statement. I don't know. You want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Um, so the organization later named Yiannopoulos, who is openly gay, as the grand marshal for the event. Quote: "I might technically be a sequined and perfectly coiffed friend of Dorothy's, but I've spent my entire career advocating for the rights of America's most brutally repressed identity, straight people. So I know a thing or two about discrimination." Yiannopoulos said in a statement released by the group. "This parade is a gift to anyone, male or female, black or white, gay and transgender allies too, who will stand with us and celebrate the wonder and the majesty of God's own heterosexuality. Men, bring your most toxic selves. Women, prepare to burn your briefcases, because it's great to be straight, and we're not apologizing for it anymore. We're here, not queer."
Wow. Okay, so all right, I need to clarify a few things here.
Oh, it's so funny.
First, is there actually a straight pride parade happening?
Yes, as of right now, yes. The mayor of Boston said that they can't refuse them any parade or gathering based on viewpoint.
And Yiannopoulos is actually going to be the grand marshal.
Grand Marshal, and the name of this is what made me think that it was know that it's a little bit just either ironic or just a little bit of a troll. The organization that is running is called Super Happy Fun America.
Super Happy Fun America. And he is openly gay.
Oh yeah,
but he fights for the rights of heterosexuals
that's what he says. Yeah, I
so
mean,
that
like
they're
that's the
not
thing about
marginalized by all the LGBT
look.
rhetoric that is going on in the country, I guess.
That's what I still struggle to figure out. I don't think anyone will ever figure it out about what trolling is that there is it's not 100% serious, and it's definitely not 0% serious. But
Right.
it's a little bit of a provocation, a little bit of a troll, little bit of like cultural protest. It's all like a spectrum, and so
So what's real?
yes.
What's real?
That's what I'm saying. What's real is that they're having this parade. It's like that's what's real.
This is
Like
I mean, it's like I don't know, man. See, it's
yeah.
these kind of things where I'm just like, is this is when they talked about raining cats and dogs? These are the kind of apocalyptic things that happen that make you go, what the hell's going on? Hey, there's Michael Vega in the chat, and we're dumb. What is that word?
Midget says, "What's the name of the effect that makes parody hard to discern?" I believe that's Poe's law. I believe that's like at a certain point, parody is indistinguishable from the real thing. I believe that's Poe's law. I can look it up though. Yamafego says autism. Nathaniel said that he is a little gay though. That's funny. Tenchi says it's definitely a spectrum to me.
Well,
It's where on the spectrum?
yeah, you know,
Poe's law. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Poe's laws. Is that
yeah.
Edgar Allan Poe?
No, no, no. It's
I'm just
some.
kidding. I'm just
Oh,
kidding. That's the only Poe I know.
how dare it?
The
How
only
dare
other,
I not
well,
get
all the
that?
other Poe I know live in my neighborhood.
The Poe folks.
The Poe folks, right? Being
Oh
stalked
man.
by the Popo. So,
Yeah. So I just thought that was very funny. I talked about it. My stream today was called Pulp of Personality because I just basically went through 5 different personalities and talked about them. Kim.com, Milo Yiannopoulos, Justin Bieber, Tom Cruise. I don't know if you heard about that.
yeah, I heard,
Um,
I saw
yeah,
something about that in your Discord. I haven't looked
yeah,
into it yet because I was
yeah. He
looking at other
challenged him to
stuff for this.
an MMA fight.
Shut up.
He
Does
challenged him to a fight.
Does Bieber know MMA?
I have no idea.
Does he know that
But
Tom Cruise would probably kick his ass?
but Tom Cruise can hang from a slack line in the CIA headquarters
Yes.
while installing a floppy disk.
Well, he is a gymnast, right? So
Mm-mm.
he a lot of stuff he's done in his movies. He does a lot of his own stunts. So it's I don't know so much as getting older, but he's done a lot of training and a lot of fight training and that kind of thing. Bieber's done videos on YouTube and concerts out in the real world. I mean, I don't know how much MMA. Well, unless he's been training on the side, like right with his bodyguards, they've been doing a whole Mr. Miyagi thing with him.
Yeah, I mean, and there's something to be said for old man muscle, old man strength. I bet you. I mean, to be honest, I bet you Cruz would fuck him up.
I know he would. I
I bet
have
you
no
fuck him
doubt
up.
in my mind.
Yeah.
If the two of them would be able to get past the whole preening part of the process, where they just stand around looking at how good they look in the mirror before they fight, because they're
Yeah.
both got their heads so far up their ass, it's not even funny.
And never underestimate having the Church of
Well, I
Scientology
was
on your
just
side.
going to say, right? I
Yeah.
mean, next thing he's tagging in John Travolta,
Yeah.
and he's going
Yeah.
Pulp
Yeah.
Fiction on his ass.
For sure.
So, Stephen, on a slightly more serious note, I saw an article this week, and I shared it with you. And and part of what really sparked me on this article was a conversation John and I and Midget had been having over the weekend with Tenchi and some other friends. Um, Talking about racism, as was one of the things that we talked about, and disparities between minorities and things like this. Um, one thing that I've always been concerned about is, what keeps racism alive in this country, right? What keeps hate alive? We can talk about, we can go into anti-Semitism and the whole 9 yards, but, what things keep this alive? And, I think it plays on both sides of the field, right? To a certain extent, right? Both sides are responsible for doing that, right? When you're talking about our social culture, I would think.
You mean like left and right being both sides?
Well, okay, well, more so, when if we're talking about racism, like if we look at white on black or black on brown racism, both sides of the spectrum there keep the racism alive in their own ways, right?
Mm.
So we have white people, of course, who may be racist to another color, but then we also have minorities that are racist to white people and other races themselves. We could use an example like African Americans having appropriated the word nigga, right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing where it's like, okay, we can use this. We don't want you to use this because it's derogatory coming from you, but we have appropriated this word, which I don't agree with, because I think that's one of those things that kind of keeps it alive, right? From a
Yeah.
cultural standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that basically what keeps it alive is there being groups, there being humans, and there being free thought, and none
Right.
of those are ever going away. So it's not going away. It's
No.
like it's more about whether rather than what keeps it alive. It's why would it go away? There's no reason for that it would ever go away.
Sure, I
That's
can
I think
understand it not going away because we're going to have the inherent differences, and that's it's kind of one of the things we do as humans, right? But
yeah.
there are ways that we can keep it out of everybody's face, right? I mean, I'm talking about the
Yeah.
kind of racism in your face where people who wouldn't normally be thinking racist thoughts or about racist issues are having to, because it's constantly in our face in one way or the other.
Yeah.
Media does a good job of that. Um,
Yeah.
but I saw this article, and it's about a fella. He's out in California and in Los Angeles, and he regularly visits this local barber shop near him. And recently, last year, now it's almost a year ago, he went into the barber shop, and there was a new barber there. Well, the barber knew him from Chicago and knew that he was HIV positive, and proceeded to let the rest of the barbers in the barbershop know,
Mm.
and then turn around, and his normal barber pulls him aside the next time he comes in and says, "Look," he says, it's nothing personal, but I can't cut your hair here anymore." Or, "I can't cut your hair anymore. I have celebrity clients that I deal with, this, that, and the other, and you've got HIV. Don't want to take the risk."
Mm.
So this guy takes him to court, and the barbershop never follows up on the lawsuit, right? They don't respond. So judge turns around and says, "Okay, well, if they're not, they're going to say this." He says, "Then we're going to rule against them, and forcing them to pay $75,000 in damages to this guy, plus about $5,000 in other fees, because of a violation of the Disabilities Act, People with
Mm.
Disabilities Act." Now,
Right.
I believe you said off, Mike, this is one of those laws that you're not really in favor of, right? The Americans with
No.
Disabilities Act,
No.
right?
No, I mean, like I guess I should say that regardless of the, I mean, I haven't read it. I
Right.
have read the Civil Rights Act, and I generally oppose any government intervention in people's freedom to associate
Gotcha.
for any reason at all.
Right.
People or businesses, their freedom to associate with each other is as important. It's I don't know if it's I don't have I don't have a value that's number one, but freedom of association, right to bear arms, freedom of speech, as an extension, freedom of thought, are
Right.
there's no compromising on them as far as I'm concerned.
Well, so this guy, the reason why he was known in Chicago by the other fellow was because
Right.
he had gotten in trouble in Chicago because he was diagnosed with AIDS, and then, or HIV, and then continued to sleep with his girlfriend for the next month, not telling her that he had it because he found out from donating blood. So he committed a felony, and he spent, I believe it was 18 months in jail for that. And then after that, he comes out, and he becomes this kind of a spokesperson, a trophy boy for this for discrimination against people with HIV, this, that, and the other. And
Right.
with this lawsuit, he tied himself in with the Black AIDS Institute and Lambda Legal group, who promote, who fight against discrimination against black people with HIV, right?
Yeah.
And then their statement on this says, Nico's experience highlights how black people living with HIV are confronted with discrimination every day, but this judgment puts businesses on notice that discrimination will not be tolerated. Freedom for black people means that all black people deserve to live without fear of discrimination. Now, my biggest issue with this, he was going to a black owned barbershop. It was an African American barbershop. He is African American. They did not refuse service because of his race. Yet these groups are turning this issue into a focus on his race versus the HIV condition that actually got him banned from business. And I think it's reprehensible. This is an example of how these groups try and keep it in your face.
Hmm.
You know,
Interesting. Okay. I see
you
what
see,
you're saying. Sure.
and it's like,
Yeah.
why are you turning this into a race issue? I'm tired of things that aren't racially motivated being turned into this.
Right. Yeah.
And it does go to civil rights. It does go to affirmative action. And you've got some pretty strong opinions on, just like I do, about civil rights and affirmative action, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I just think that look, there's no there shouldn't be a right to not discriminate. I mean, to be free from being discriminated against. I mean, you have the right to discriminate. You've the right to you should. I mean, you don't, but I guess your business doesn't have the right to because of that law. But I mean, discrimination starts in your brain, and it starts with free thought. And I think that the right to discriminate is more important than a government with a gun to your head saying you can't be discriminated against. I mean, everyone gets discriminated against, and individuals are more important than groups. So like, it's just and when will it ever stop? It's like, I could argue this whole thing from without even saying the name of the group. It doesn't
right,
matter the group.
right,
It's just that free people should have the right to think and do as they please, and it's your right to not give them their dollar, to give them your dollar and just call them a frickin' jackass, regardless of the group, regardless of the race. These laws, are supposed to be as universal as they can be. So I just have massive problems with propping groups up, the same as I would have problems with laws tearing groups down, which they were prior to Jim Crow. I mean, the whole thing with the Civil Rights Act, because racism was legalized. It was a legal thing at one point. That's bullshit too. So I just don't think that the government should have a hand in propping
right.
up groups or tearing them down at all. At all, regardless of it.
Well, when we talked about this a little bit today on Discord, you sent me a video. It's a YouTube video, and what did you say the fella's name? And I know his music name, but
Yeah. His name's Eric July. He's a badass libertarian, like ANCAP type dude. I follow him on Twitter. I want to get him on my show. Yeah, but basically he's saying that he's a black dude, and he basically just made the same argument I just did.
yes,
where it's just
absolutely.
it's simpler than having to treat groups as special. Just be an individual and go elsewhere. And the market, I guess you could call that the market. I mean, if the market is just the group of people making financial decisions, but I don't know, it was a good video.
And so, from the standpoint of, when we look at the government keeping things like the Civil Rights Act in play, keeping affirmative action in play, do you think that they would agree that they should go away, but they stay in play simply for the political gain it gathers every election season?
Fuck that. I mean, nothing. No law should be in play. It should exist just for political gain. That's bullshit. A law should be in play to do something, not to do something politically. You might as well just erase the text and be like, this benefits. It makes no sense. No law should be in place for that reason.
Right, and I agree with what Jake from Freedom Scoop says. Laws based on race are inherently racist, and
Yeah,
it is true, and
any group.
and
Yeah,
and presents it on a daily basis to people because you're confronted with it. Go to find a job, and in some way or another, you have to think about it. You're confronted with it. Go to get a loan from a bank, get a grant from the government, get money for school. You are confronted with these racist agendas from affirmative action, civil rights, and this is not those things don't just target African Americans anymore, right? I mean, these are unilateral across the board for minorities. Anybody, you know, not white male, right? It's really the only group that is not covered by any of those things, because even white women have advantages from affirmative action.
and they shouldn't be either. I mean, I'm a white dude. I don't think there should be any laws in place propping my shit up, or women, or anybody. It like someone said in the chat that Yamafago says laws should be in place to protect individual rights, not group rights. It's never gonna end. It's never gonna end. They're gonna slash these groups into groups into groups. There's gonna be anti-Hmong laws, anti-Vietnam. Like, dude, it's never gonna stop. It's bullshit.
Well, but they will, in counterpoint to that, the government will always argue that by supporting affirmative action, you are protecting the rights of the individual. Yes, you're doing broad based across minorities, but it protects the
No,
rights of those individuals within those groups. They will
no,
make
but
that
that's
argument.
even one step. Yeah, they're wrong because that's one step removed from the individual. It's not the same thing, and it's like, yeah, I see that they would make that argument, but they're wrong.
Right.
That's not
Right.
right. It's too indirect.
Right.
Um, but I mean, and I just am saying that, like, people have free thought, free people have free thought, free speech, and the freedom of association, and we should be able to do whatever we want, even if other people think it's wrong, even if it morally is wrong. Like, it's the way it is. Like,
Well, let me ask you this. So I understand how you see freedom of association, from a market standpoint, consumer standpoint. What about in the workforce? What about hiring? So this is another area where I would say you're probably of the same mind, right? If people are allowed to hire whoever they want for whatever reason. If I don't want to hire any minorities whatsoever, I can just hire all white men if I want to, and that's okay. Would
for
you
sure,
agree with that?
any race, yeah, regardless of whether it's white or, yeah, any person, or any person not, yeah, basically. And I mean, like, for instance, just to get back to the article real fast, I think that it would be better, like, this barbershop owner, he could have just said, because the guy's a dick for not disclosing. He could have just said, I'm not going to cut your hair, not because you have HIV, because you went for a month and didn't tell anybody, and, like, or he could have said you're a criminal, or whatever, and any of those reasons are fine. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like he
Right.
could have just been like, you're a dick.
Right.
um so, yeah, but, like, in the workforce, like you were saying, yeah, basically, I don't think you have the right to someone in the chat said you don't have a right to a job. I agree with that. I just think that eventually those businesses that didn't, like, I don't think you should be required to give a reason either.
Right. Well,
you know
I've always found that there's some hypocrisy in the way this works. So, for instance, we'll take that specific restaurant brand that's famous for their wings and their owls, and you know, I mean
Chick-
the say what?
talking about Chick-fil-A. What are you talking about? Oh, Hooters. Oh, sorry. I just didn't get
I
it.
wasn't gonna call them out.
I was so dumb. I'm sorry, dude.
I'm afraid
Shit
I don't.
for
Who
not
knows
getting
what
that.
keywords YouTube is searching for to ban people? I don't. I'm not saying Hooters. Come on.
It's funny.
Um,
So yes, keep going.
but they've always populated their service floor with big-breasted women, right? And
For
men
sure.
have taken this to court more than once, I believe, and gotten shut down from an affirmative action standpoint, with judges saying it doesn't matter, suck it up. They need big-breasted women, and now if you'll leave me alone, I'm going to have lunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, um, so it's there's a hypocrisy there that goes on with it as well, right? and even companies that without admitting as much are filling quotas, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So do we is it possible to take those out? I mean, what happens if you try and take the Civil Rights Act out? Do you think there's enough libertarians amongst the minority communities?
No, I kind of don't care. I think that governments and people should be allowed to be racist. That
Well,
just shouldn't be illegal.
right, but what I'm saying is the actions that were taken to put the Civil Rights Act into play, the Million
Hmm.
Man March, Martin Luther
Right.
King's death, they attribute that to the movement, all of this. You take something like that away, you would expect there's going to be a little bit of friction in this country.
For
You can't,
sure.
right?
For sure.
I mean, and look at just something stupid like the Rodney King trial. Look at how people reacted to that,
Yeah.
right?
But
So,
that was after Civil Rights Act, and like freedom with friction is better than no freedom. Like
um,
like yeah, freedom with friction is how it was before the Civil Rights Act. And since, I'm not saying we have no freedom and stuff like that. I just think that these things there's things more important than not having friction.
well, I could agree with that definitely.
There's always
A
friction.
little lube, a little
Friction
lube
now.
helps, but
Yeah.
well, so you know, I don't know. Is the potential for I don't know. Is it too far thinking to think that it could cause a race war, especially if you took that and affirmative action out of play at the same time?
Yeah, let me ask you something. What is that? Because that gets thrown around a lot. But like, what is that? What is a race war? Like what does it look like? Just
Um,
rioting, or like an actual like armed war?
well, in my from and I've read me, I read all sorts of different stuff. I
Hmm.
did read an article that I thought was very on point with speculation of how, and it was talking about the cultural civil war and how it would look. And it's coordination on social media across great distances, plans to do things here, 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 and here around the country, coordinated efforts where you have attacks, you have uprisings, specific timed revolts, whatever the thing may be that you're doing, but social media is expected to play, I would expect it would play a large part in that, in coordinating large scale effort from small groups of people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I just I guess I'm just making the point that like the words race war get thrown around a lot in
Well,
the media,
yeah.
and no one who's saying that. I mean people like talking heads, not necessarily like YouTubers
Right.
and stuff, but what is that, and what does it look like? And give me a historical example of it.
Well,
Not you, but
I don't know.
them.
I
Them.
don't.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know that
you know.
there's a historical example of it to call out. But my thought on what it is more so is that, from the standpoint of what we're talking about, if you were to take those two things out of play, you're disenfranchising in the minds of a lot of people. A lot of minorities will believe that their rights are now being taken away. So the same way you would be if they knocked on your door and said, "We're taking guns away," that is the mindset that they will have. They're taking rights away from us, right? We no longer have equal rights under the Constitution. Because that is what they prop on, for the most part. That's what they've been asked to lean on as far as gaining their rights or having equal rights. So when that goes away, then I'm expecting not just African Americans, but it would be a targeting of the white establishment from a multitude of races that felt disenfranchised by this.
Okay, it might happen, but what I'm saying is you being forced, a business being forced
Hmm.
to give to sell shit to you is not giving them rights. It's taking the rights away from the business.
Absolutely, but that's not
Like,
how it's sold from the political spectrum, right?
yeah,
That's not how it's sold
so
to
it's
them.
I know, I just can't help when people are wrong. Like I can't help that.
Right.
And it's like so they're gonna sell it, and hopefully truth wins out in the long run. But these things are factually untrue. So it's like I
Hmm.
believe that the truth is more important than spin.
Well,
And
it works hand in hand with our education system, though. We don't teach politics in school as much anymore unless you go into higher education because you can afford it or you get the money, right? So, people don't know to think outside this box that's being painted for them.
yeah, Yeah, well, education, another problem. I just, I just don't. I just would be more down with freedom, total freedom of association, and then let the chips fall. And there's been political violence everywhere, all the time. Like all the time. There's always friction. There's always some shit, and this, the freedom is the most important thing. And I mean, I could argue this whole thing from, if you just listen to me talk with a Stephen Hawking robot voice, no idea I'm white, no idea I'm a man. I could lie and make a hologram of me being a little Chinese dude. And like this doesn't matter about the which group. I'm not speaking for my own group. I'm just saying that freedom of association, like people should be allowed to be racist against me for sure. For sure. And if they want to refuse me business on my race, they should be able to. And I think that there's things more important than blowback. There's more things important than some asshole spinning something a certain way. Uh, Definitely get rid of the Department of Education, but we're not talking about that tonight. I don't know. Like people should be able to discriminate out the butt towards me personally, like, and every group. That's how I feel.
So
Um,
then that begs the question, and we, we just had Keenan Dunham on the show, who's a libertarian candidate for president for
Good
2020, right?
man. Yeah.
Right.
Good guy.
And you did the
Yep.
same. Is that correct? You've had
Yes.
him on the
Yes.
show, yeah.
Yep.
So I'll ask you the same question. How do we, this kind of mindset, this understanding of what the realities of these laws and policies that are in place only ever seen I never hear it from anybody who's not like really identified as libertarian, right?
Mm.
And
Mm.
I know that the libertarian spectrum is wide, with varying viewpoints, but how do we can't get anybody on the stage. We can't get anybody in front of the
Yeah.
American people. And, without it seeming like it's a bunch of smoke and mirrors and hoo-ha.
Right. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, definitely the two-party system is fucked. I'm not really a libertarian. They're just who I get along best with. Uh, I don't really know how to classify myself. I do believe in the non-aggression principle, but I also respect nations. Like I respect all like national borders of you know most countries. You know, so I don't know how to classify myself, but I just think that regardless of the sound coming out of our mouth, libertarian, Democrat, whatever, we got to get away from this group shit. Anti-groupist would be what I am, but like I don't know how to fix that problem. Like I've been calling the debates, the national political thing, pro wrestling for a while. So I don't know, man.
Well, John and I both share a common opinion on about getting rid of political party affiliations when it comes to elections. And everybody basically run as an independent, as it were, and we have to listen to your policies and your ideology and make a decision based off that, not off your fucking party line.
Yeah,
Because if we continue down party lines, you will not see a third party, whether it's libertarian, the Green Party, whatever. You won't see anybody else on the stage when it's time to start cracking the nuts.
yeah,
And I
it's
don't.
hard.
Right? Isn't it?
It's really hard.
How much of our civil liberties or how much of our rights, our liberties have to be eroded away through things like the Patriot Act, through the Civil Rights Act, through uh, the other one that I said, the AA.
The Americans Disabilities, that
No,
one,
the other one. I always do this.
Alcoholics Anonymous,
Yeah, Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah, see, they shouldn't be government funded either, or
Stephen
are they?
I, and I'm an addict.
Oh, I'm in affirmative action. That's the one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
All right.
I mean, it's with that's a big beast to fight, and we are there enough people outside the brainwashing of these things? I mean, how do we get that message into Washington if we can't get anybody on the stage?
I have no idea, man. I have no idea. We need to. Well, I mean, need to make the the president, office of the president, not as important. That's essentially, it was never meant to be this important. I mean, it feels like that's all people talk about when they're talking about elections. So that's one of them. But I don't know how that like affects people's ability to think about the individual before the group. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
You want to hear my conspiracy theory?
Please, yeah, please.
All right, so the government has been making a coordinated effort over the years to erode our rights, and at the same time, they keep us brainwashed and thinking that we need to be pitted against each other in this country. So that at the point when we realize enough of our rights have been eroded away and we might rise up, there will be so much infighting between small factions within this country, it gives the government time to step in and institute a police state and then obliterate any rights we have left.
Wouldn't be hard.
I mean, they are actively working to quell the revolution before it ever starts by pitting us against each other so that we fight it out there first before we bring the fight to them.
Yeah, we need to not do that.
Right?
We need to not do that. That's why I mean I don't know if I'd say I'm like trying to do my part and all, but I maybe intuitively I'm like, that's why I don't need to argue this from the subject of like my group. It doesn't matter the group. It matters the individuals and individual rights. And if we could just make every law not even mention the group, I think that would be better.
Right? No law should mention any group. It should be very cut and dried. Citizen is the only thing that should qualify when you're talking human and citizen when you're talking about rights.
And bro, and the citizen thing is mattering less and less.
Well, what do you explain that, please?
Well, I'm saying that like, people are trying to give not that I think that honestly, I think that voting is not an inherent right, first of all. But if we were to take voting as the like the measuring stick, people are trying to give non-citizens rights.
No, and that's fucked up. No,
yeah.
Voting in an election in the United States, or whether it's at the state level or at the federal level, should only be a privilege for citizens. Period. That's the only thing I truly believe. Yes, we can enact human rights for non-citizens. Right? There are basic inalienable human rights that we can address and treat them fairly if they're on a path to citizenship. And then once citizenship kicks in, then your full scale of rights kicks in as protected by the Constitution and supposed to be protected by our federal government.
Nathaniel says, I think he says it matters, Stephen. I think he's talking about voting and immigration law, if nothing else. What I was saying about voting is it's not like it's not inherent. It's not as important that everyone has the right to vote. It's not this thing that like, oh, I'm doing the most powerful thing I can do by voting. I think freedom of speech and right to bear arms and freedom of association are more important to freedom than for like a universal freedom than voting.
Right.
I think that people that I don't know.
Voting is not an inalienable human right,
no.
Right? It's a right of the citizenry, or privilege, actually, of the citizenry.
Oh. He was talking about groups, not he was talking about yeah, but I mean he's talking about groups, not voting. I was calling groups not voted, but he says it matters for immigration law. I meant in the country. It's very complicated.
When it comes to groups, though, in this country, the only time groups really matter is when there's a political agenda at stake. I mean, look at it. I mean, when we have an election, what do you hear in present day elections for the last, I don't know, 10 plus more elections, probably further back? Can she swing the black vote? How's she doing on the Latino vote? How's he doing on the, on the female vote? It's all about these groups and how they're voting, and you have to appeal to these groups in your campaign. And then once you're in office, which groups are you going to appeal to? This is, the whole immigration thing is a promise that Donald Trump made, so it's a platform he has to push really, really hard, right, to secure his political agenda and look for re-election in 2020. But
it's also, I feel it's the biggest issue.
Sure,
it's not just political. I mean, it's the immigration, like the securing the border and all that stuff. the way what that affects with the debt and the welfare state. I mean, the welfare state and the border, I think, are the biggest issues.
Right.
They're almost one thing,
So he should just have the fucking balls and shut the borders. Just shut them
Yeah,
all. Shut all the
yeah,
borders and let's get our shit together. Right?
yeah.
We don't need outside influence. All we need is trade, right? We don't need immigration anymore. We've got enough population to be self-sustaining. We don't need to keep filling our coffers with immigrants. I understand that immigrants were impactful in this country once upon a time, but the only person served by immigration now is the immigrant. Would you not agree?
Oh, I definitely agree. I think that yeah, you have to prove whether you have to prove on paper and to people that immigration and the border is the size of the problem that it is, and if it's provable like that, like you just said, like shutting the borders is a thing that like all countries in crisis have done this.
Right.
And it's not like cool for the people trying to get in, but it's like it's kind of a little bit of self-preservation. That's why I'm kind of I don't know what to call myself, but I'm definitely have some nationalist tendencies, because it's like if you're a country, then you're a nation, and
Right.
every country has the right to do this, or I guess right through might. If a country's a country, so it's like it's why I can't be like an open borders libertarian. I just don't think.
It's because we have to set an example for the rest of the world, Stephen. We're America. We have to be the example.
Mm, no.
No, we don't,
Yeah,
right?
no,
We don't
no.
need to be the fucking example. Pull
Yeah.
our asses out of countries where we have military presence that is unnecessary, right? And there's a lot of places where it's unnecessary. I could see there might be some reasons to be some places, but I don't know that they're justified and good. But bring them back. Get out of the rest. I'd like to see this fixed because I've been around for 50 years and we still don't have it fixed. Like this is not a smooth, well-oiled machine that we're running here.
Mm,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
No.
do you now you use the word crisis when talking about other countries have closed their borders in times of crisis. Do you see us at a point of crisis when we're
Hundred
talking about
percent.
immigration, or is it
Hundred
much deeper
percent.
than just those two issues?
No, well, 100% we've been in crisis. Now, it doesn't mean like I'll put it this way. If you have drank your liver to the point where it's gonna fail in 15 years, the time to stop is now. And it's like some people are not going to feel this crisis, but I've really studied the end of empires and stuff like that. And when the debt gets like this, when the welfare gets like this, when the morals get like this, and it's coming down, yo. And 2 or 3 years before will be too late. So I don't know if we're 2 to 3 years away from it right now. It's almost impossible to know. But I think that this has been some serious shit since like '97,
So
like a long time.
paint that landscape for me when it all comes down. What do you see happening in this country?
Well, I mean, I think the dollar collapses.
Well, I understand that, but what happens? Is it going to be a revolt against? Will there be a revolution against the government, or will it be the
No,
government stepping up to step on the citizenry?
I think that there's going to be some sort of I don't see there being a revolt where people take over the government. I see them consolidating power. I mean, it depends whether it goes global or national, and what we use as the backing for our economy after this. Like it could be like a single event, and it also could be a long thing, like a couple years long. But there's going to be some form of restructuring of the economy, whether it's global or a consolidate. It's either can get bigger or get smaller. Uh, and I essentially think that cities are fucked. Um, it's going to be economic problems, starvation. I believe. I
I
don't.
know. I
You
can
know
tell
what I
you what's
mean?
going to
Like,
happen. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen when the dollar crashes and we go bankrupt as a country. Jeff Bezos is going to buy us on eBay.
maybe.
Jeff Bezos will own America when that happens.
No, man.
He will
All those
buy
people
us.
are gonna move, yo.
Yeah,
All
and
those
buy.
people's gonna move.
He'll
I mean,
move to he'll
look, we're
move to
talking
China, and China will buy us.
we're talking shit on a stream, so it's basically we're just like speculating, but like all things come to an end. Um, in 2021 we can't make our interest payments. Our excuse me, our interest payments become more than this than our actual payments. Uh, Social Security's done.
Right.
Uh, this debt, the debt is never going to get paid back. It's just like these things have happened before in history, and it never ends well. It's just a matter of what. We got some stuff from the Nathaniel says, Yugoslavian breakup and collapse of the empire, like likely military losses and a local coup in DC. Maybe. Um, I mean, I live in DC. Uh, so I don't know. I don't know what that would look like. Maybe it's too close to home or whatever. But you like maybe a coup inside of the federal government. Not sure. Um, but I don't know. Like I've just heard
Well,
about this before.
well, let me ask you this: Is it? Would you think that, or even with the collapse of the dollar,
Mm-hmm.
from the federal standpoint, the country goes broke. Would there be an opportunity then for the states themselves to rise up as country states in and of themselves,
Yeah,
cede from the
that's
nation
likely.
and become their own, just a bunch of smaller entities, and be
Yeah,
able to support themselves with an economy, because at that level the dollar would still maintain value. Yes.
yeah, but yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, there's definitely gonna be war. Then there's definitely gonna be conflict at the borders of the states, and it's just that what scares me is the one of the things that throws a monkey wrench in it is that the global economy has the backing of the U.S. dollar. So that makes it a little more complicated. If like the Russian Revolution, whatever. I mean, you could argue that Rome had the economic backing of the entire like known civilized world at the time: Europe, Mediterranean, uh, Africa, Middle East. But you know, I don't know. I mean, I wish I were smarter, man. I wish I knew more about this stuff, but it being backed by essentially the U.S. petrodollar and blood and trust, not real shit. And I don't
Well,
know I don't know what's going to happen outside, but I don't know what it's out. I mean, I'm not. I don't know what's going to happen inside either. But yeah, it could definitely be a breakup and nation state type shit.
I mean, it's now. I mean, it could happen. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I don't know. Do you think Trump not being reelected could be the breaking point? I mean, odd as it might sound, what's going to be the breaking point? Is it just going to be the value of the dollar that's going to be the breaking point?
I don't know. No one knows. That's the thing. That's like it's one of the things that can get you painted as like a doomsday or a conspiracy theorist if you walk around saying what it'll be. I don't think anyone knows,
Oh
man.
no, no. I only
It could
look for
be an event.
speculation here because
Yeah, it could be a violent event. It could be an election. Sure. It could
my
be an invasion.
my
It could
prestidigitation skills are bullshit, so I couldn't begin to tell you.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff from the chat. They're talking about like could be a monarchy, could be a social. It'll be a socialist oligarchy. Throw away in the constitution. It's a
Now,
lot of.
see,
I mean,
that one I find interesting, and that's when that I would agree with from Nate. That's the part that I worry about the most, is how widespread the American military is. And one of the things that we did talk about off mic this weekend was how the military would probably, there would be a pretty strong division in the military: those who would actually serve the government and those who would walk away from it because of what they were doing. But I honestly believe that there would be an action towards a military state in this country at the first sign of the dollar collapsing. Well,
yeah.
the first real breaking point of the dollar, because our economy is doing great right now. Please, in your best Trump voice, tell us how great the economy is doing
It's,
right now.
it's the best. Listen, it's the best. The stock market is the best it's ever been. But yeah, I mean, you could say it's doing okay. It's doing good in terms of the stock market, but there's other thing. I don't know. I wish I knew more about the economy. I just don't. I just, I think there might be some people that know when, where, and how it's going to go down, but I think those people are making other plans right now, if you know what I'm saying.
I think it's going to be a big crow eating situation for Donald Trump if that happens during his first or second term. It would probably happen in his second term if it happened soon.
Hmm.
Because honestly, I would expect, even though their economy is kind of shit up and down right now, I would expect China to come to be like, oh, we can take care of this for you. We can handle this, but here's what's going to happen. And then suddenly we see this influx of money coming from China, um, to where we're now beholding to them.
I mean, they own a lot of our debt. They
Right.
own a ton of our debt. So
Right.
it's like, I don't know. Like, um, yeah, I just don't know. We're definitely out in speculation land, but it doesn't mean it's just because we aren't like up top, but we don't have all the insider information and stuff like that. But just think that you know, uh, you know, we could be, you could argue some of the stuff that we're doing globally with the wars we're trying to get into are it could be used as a justification. If we do a preemptive strike, we go to war, we could blame it easily on a foreign war. And I don't pull the strings, man. Like I wish
War is good
I,
for
I
the economy.
yeah, right, man. No, it's not.
That's not what
Terrible
they
for the economy.
say. Come
Terrible for the
on.
economy.
No, no,
Terrible for everybody.
they always tell us it's the best thing it's great for the economy.
Yeah.
You won't be able to buy food with the dollar and your water would shut off. They can't shut down a river. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you
So
can piss in one too.
so if it all starts to fall apart, Steven, where are you headed?
Oh man. Like for real, I don't
Just a
know.
general area. You don't have to specify, but
Oh no, I mean it's more about where not to be, man. No cities.
do you have a state
Yeah,
in mind that you would head to? You
either
should have
East
that plan in
Coast,
place.
either East Coast or out West. Middle,
Yeah.
maybe middle. I don't know.
I'm
I
gonna
got
rec-
plans, but I don't
I'm
know.
I'm gonna recommend Alberta.
Alberta, huh?
Yeah.
Dude, they're closing that border too. I bet
I don't know, man. How strong is that border? I think we could get across.
those Mounties, yo.
Right? Are
Those
they that
Mounties.
prevalent across the border? I've never really looked into how strong the coverage is across the border because there's a lot of wide open territory up there. Like
Hmm.
I could imagine you could just be heading through the Montana, through Montana, what is it, Wyoming up there, and just one day you're like, why does it smell like maple syrup? Right?
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, it's scary, but it's also funny. It's got a like little black comedy going on. A little Black Death comedy.
Well, I will say this as a final note. The only thing that really bothers me about it is having children that are, that are facing something like this. Young teenage girls. This could be a very scary next 10, 20 years for them. Um, I've always wondered if I would see something like this in my lifetime, and well, you never know, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be I'd be shocked if it lasted another 15. I'd be shocked.
Really?
I mean, yes, yeah,
You're a
man. Because
goddamn doomsayer.
look up every time look. I mean, yeah, I just call him like I see him, man. I like look at every time a country hasn't been able to pay its interest payments. Like look at it every time, and that's happening in a couple years. I just, I don't know what to say. I like the truth, and someone like I always say, if someone could come over the top over like what I think is true, I would obviously listen. I mean, dude, I'm living in the shit right now. Um, so I just, I've, there's many examples of when a country can't, excuse me, not make its interest payments. Sorry about that. When their interest payments become more than their real payments, like some serious shit goes down. And also when there's like mass influx of foreign migration, war usually follows that. It's just the way history and empires work. It's just so. And I like to read.
Well, if nothing else, at least we're good at war. We've had practice,
Oh, I know. We are good at that.
right?
It's kind
We
of
are
lame.
we are pros. 233 years of experience in the war industry. Let's keep it going. Right?
Voted most popular.
Voted most people. All right, Stephen, we're going to get the hell out of here, and
All right, that
I
was
want to
fun, man.
thank you for stopping by and standing in for John. I will say you're much better looking than he is, though his amazing wit and repartee that he brings to the table is missed, but it was really good having you here.
Yeah, man.
So,
I think my beard is bigger than John's now. It's kind of legit, right?
ooh, we're gonna have a beard off.
Beard off.
We maybe we shouldn't. Well, he did. He trimmed his back not too long ago, so
Mm,
yeah, he's But you're going Grizzly Adams on yours.
I
So, what do you? Did you say you're gonna go full Amish, or are you just gonna go full on Hasidic Jew?
I don't know, man. Get the curls.
Right? And do some ponytails and shit. Are you cutting your top hair, or are you cutting your hair up top at all?
Yeah, I usually just shave it myself. I haven't got a real haircut in a long time.
Sweet,
Just
sweet.
buzz it, do the full. Zzz.
So, if you would like to take a moment to make any shameless plugs about anything you've got coming up this week or in the future.
Sure. Funny you should mention that, sir. um,
I'm funny like that.
yeah, I do a stream. I do a daily weekday stream by myself called the Daily Ignoramus. You can catch it midday every weekday. I have a podcast called Call Me Ignorant tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, with Jake from Freedom Scoop, and I have another one on. Well, I got my Wednesday concert. I haven't done that in a while. The Know Nothing Party. That is Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then I have another Call Me Ignorant Friday, 12 p.m. noon Eastern with Jose Alberto Nino. We're going to be talking all things Venezuela. He's a badass Venezuelan-born American citizen, libertarian type, ANCAP type, and we're going to be talking. I'm going to get the lowdown on history of Venezuela, how they got into this mess, what's happened since then, all kinds of stuff like that. So check it out.
Sweet. And
Yep.
if you're curious where to find Steven, right after you get through hitting the like button and the subscribe, if you haven't already, down below that you'll see a bunch of links. You can catch Steven on various opportunities. You've got yourself a Discord server. You're running on YouTube, Bitchute, DLive. You got a little Twitter thing going on out there. You're a little bit of everywhere, aren't you?
Yep. I try.
Yeah, there's a lot of ignoramus going around, isn't there? And if you want to catch us, you know where to find us here on YouTube. You can also catch us on our Discord server, and you can also find us on Twitter at the Gen Gap P. And also, both Steven and ourselves, you can find us on Freedom Scoop as well. Look for our videos there. As he said, he's got Jake from Freedom Scoop coming on, and they're probably gonna talk shit about other people on this site, but that's how they are. But hopefully you liked what you're hearing. Like I said, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Steven, once again, big props to you for dropping by tonight. I appreciate you filling in because nobody wants to listen to nothing but me. This has been the Generational Gap, and we hope you guys have yourselves a good night. We're out of here. Peace out.